Good evening and welcome to your annual MUTV special. Tonight we'll cover politics on a smaller yet equally important scale.
With ups and downs and twists and turns, we'll finally bring you a postponed but accurate Marquette student government election special. Right now, only on MUTV News.
Live from Marquette, this is your campus news source, MUTV News.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Hess.
And I'm Mihelich. It's been probably one of the most craziest student government elections in Marquette history.
Many of us thought the ballots for the election were final late last week, but that was not the case. After primary elections had already been rescheduled due to an error in the voting system, students found out that a possible campaign violation would make even the second round of votes bad.
A mass text message was sent out right before the primary election strongly suggesting that students vote for the Bresnahan and night party. But as we all came to find out, sending mass electronic campaign messages is a violation, and a board hearing last week resulted in the Knight and Bresnahan ticket being removed from the final ballot.
Well, and tomorrow, those polls open with the new candidates. Sam Schultz and Zach Bauman will join Mihelich and Thomas Schick on the ballot. These candidates will join us later tonight. And that was crazy this week, wasn't it?
That was absolutely nuts.
So first, there's a problem with the election voting system. So we get a notice from the university that we're going to have to redo the election.
Yeah,
so everybody's annoyed with that. So we redo the election, and then somebody violated the policy, apparently, and we had to redo that election again until after Easter break.
Very stressful for everyone, I would think.
I think so, but we've all got it now.
Yes, we do. But we'll recap all this for you tonight and give you one final look at who you may want to vote for tomorrow. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to MUTV News. Well, many people on campus may not necessarily know what MUSG exactly is. So let's throw it over to our very own Carolyn Portner, who can clarify.
Thanks, Max. It's that fuzzy subject students struggle with. What does MUSG actually do? What are we electing those candidates to do? I asked some current MUSG leaders to dig deeper into this huge question.
Nestled in the Alumni Memorial Union, room 133, resides MUSG, the Student Governing Council at Marquette University. But what is this organization really about?
Student government is a place that you can come when you have suggestions, concerns, or issues with anything at the university.
MUSG is not just this one little office full of these people. Every single person every single undergrad student is a member of MUSG.
Erica Van Boxel, the outgoing president, and Alex Lahr, the vice president of communication for Marquette University Student Government, believes there is a lack of student knowledge on MUSG initiatives.
We take care of all of our Senate initiatives and representing students and representing student concerns, and we take care of a big bulk of the programming here on campus. And then on another token, we help out other student organizations with promoting their events, co-sponsorship, and our student organization funding process.
Van Boxel also spoke on the details of her role as president in MUSG and the role of MUSG as a whole.
I oversee all of the daily functions of the student government. I act as the main representative and of the student voice to administration. But really what it entails is just making sure that people have the resources and the knowledge to accomplish things on behalf of the students.
Addressing student concerns, suggestions, and issues is a primary task MUSG senators and executive board take on. Lahr assures that MUSG's doors are always open for students to come and get their voices heard.
Always open to any sort of suggestion. If anybody wants to suggest an event or has a cool idea, they can come to us. If they want, a different kind of condiment in the AMU for their chicken tenders, they can come to us and let us know.
More than anything, MUSG is a collection of student leaders attempting to make a real change on campus.
You just have to be hardworking and passionate about making sure that you're doing things for the students.
Knowing that the work I and the rest of MUSG does makes a better experience for Marquette students is really drives the MUSG fire.
So Carolyn, it seems like you really found out some pretty interesting stuff about MUSG itself. So do you think that people on campus know what MUSG is?
No, I think it's a big question that needs to be cleared up, especially with the big vote tomorrow. And I think it was good to dig deeper and really get to know the leaders of student media of that organization.
Definitely.
What did you think was most surprising for you doing this?
I think the biggest surprise was the real passion that they have for it in the organization themselves. They really do care a whole lot about making a change on campus. And it's a lot, they don't really know how hard they really work for it. And I think it was really great to get to know a little bit more about that.
We're actually going to show you a package first of Lisa going out and talking to some students on the street and finding out what they have to say about MUSG.
I want to see someone who's spent time with MUSG, or maybe in high school, even if they spent time with the student government there, just because I want someone who kind of knows the ropes and what to expect from the job.
In an MUSG leader, I look for somebody who's confident, feels comfortable speaking in front of people, and also putting their ideas out. I think they need to be bold in their strategies.
Someone who's got experience and kind of knows how MUSG works, because if you're a part of MUSG, you need to know how the laws work, the different regulations.
MUSG leader, I would like to see more diverse actions and activities. I feel like if they focus on more than maybe social events and more educational events, I would really appreciate that.
Definitely passion and transparency and a care for the student body as a whole, and also an ability to work with administrators.
Experience and visibility seem to be key components in what students look for in an MUSG leader. But why is this election so important to student voters?
I mean, they are the student leaders, and they're our initial connection with the university, especially in big matters. Like I know the student health insurance issue that was raised this year, and also the alcohol policy, they're our first point of contact. So I think it's very important to have someone strong in that role.
They represent us as a student body, and if they have to cater to us, and if they don't do things that cater to us, it's no point of having them. It'll be a waste of space.
I think it's a good go-between. As a student body, it might be hard for like one person who doesn't have any connections to communicate with the staff, with the faculty, but if we can elect these leaders, they can be the voice that we need.
Then I asked students what initiatives they would like to see MUSG focus on.
I'd like to see the student body or the MUSG probably more involved with the student body. I rarely see them wandering around campus, and if I do, I rarely know who they are. Maybe a few more posters, a couple more public posts. That'd probably be the only thing I'd change.
Maybe change one thing, maybe have the president and vice president out more. I know them and I see them a lot, but maybe just, I don't know, just say hi to people, I guess, whoever becomes the next leader.
I know the current administration's tried very hard to work on knowing where our funding's going, so I'd hope to see a continue in that initiative.
Stay tuned. We've got much more coming up when your MUSG election special continues.
Live from Marquette, this is your campus news source, MUTV News.
Welcome back to MUSG Election Coverage 2013. While all eyes are on the race for president and vice president, many other important MUSG races are taking place tomorrow as well. Elections are also taking place for academic Senate seats, and we caught up with a few of the candidates running for Senate and learned what it was all about.
Serving as an MUSG senator is an interesting experience because it really is what you make of it. There are certain duties and responsibilities that you take upon with yourself, but it's how far you take that can really make or break your experience in MUSG.
Kyle Welton, Jason Kurtika, and Tommy Hayes are all heavily involved in the Senate portion of MUSG.
I wanted to get involved right away, so I talked to my RA, who was in MUSG last year. He's a sophomore now.
Jason's RA is sophomore Tommy Hayes.
Currently, I am the College of Business Senator, but freshman year I was the McCormick Hall Senator.
All three are once again looking to fill spots on the MUSG Senate.
To apply for a senator or any part of MUSG, you can just stop by the MUSG office. For the Senate portion of student government, there's 2 elections each year. There's one in the fall and one in the spring. The fall elections are for residentials, and then for the spring it's academic seats.
There's an elections packet that's put out by MUSG, and then you fill out basic information, release form for GPA and things like that. And then there's also a signature component, which is really the big deal for any type of candidate application.
So I had to get 50 signatures for McCabe residents.
McCormick Hall, I had to get 75 signatures, and then College of Business, I needed to get 100 signatures.
But it's important that there are students who say, yes, this person is worthy of being on the ballot.
Those ballots are about to be voted on. With the primary election over, all that remains is tomorrow's general election.
I really enjoy working with student organizations, helping them get funds necessary to run their events and just meeting different people within student government, and it's been a blast. We have freshmen, sophomores, seniors, juniors, and we also have advisors within Marquette University that help us out. And I think just meeting the people in the organization and then helping out students and helping them get funds.
Figuring out a problem and then finding a solution and passing legislation that actually goes into effect and makes the campus a little bit better.
It's being accountable and representative to your students and those who've put you in office. Students are investing in this. They're taking an active component even if they don't realize it. And it's important that we do our jobs as senators to make sure we're representing them accurately.
I would highly encourage that everyone at least know some facts about MUSG and try to reach out to your respective MUSG members. If you're in the College of Com or the College of Business, you each have senators that represent you guys, and I would just highly encourage that if you have questions or have any problems with student government, just stop by our office.
Come to Marquette University Student Government. Come to these Senate meetings. Come into our office and talk to one of us and make sure that your voice is getting heard.
Well, good luck to Jason, Carolyn, Tommy. And if you're in the College of Arts and Sciences or the College of Business, make sure to give one of these guys your vote.
We are now joined by Drew Hallinan, who has been around the block with MUSG a few times and can surely consider himself an expert. So can you tell us, what's your history with MUSG?
Well, I started in MUSG when I was a freshman. I was an O'Donnell senator. I was elected. I moved on then to become the College of Arts and Science senator my sophomore year. And then I was elected to legislative vice president throughout the duration of my junior year. And then at the end of my junior year, I ended up running for MUSG president. Unfortunately, I lost, but I stayed very involved in the organization for 3 years, very heavily.
So you have a lot of experience with MUSG, and can you say that this was a very crazy election?
I would have to compare it to at least the previous elections that I've been involved in. And, you know, unfortunately, the student turnout, we saw just 17% in the primary election. And unfortunately, that was rather low. That was a little disappointing to see. I know last year we turned out about 36%, so less than half turned out this year. So it'd be cool if they could amp it up in the next day or two before the election.
I mean, there were obviously some problems. We had the election, the system didn't work, and then we had, you know, a problem with the actual candidates because of, you know, a potential voting violation. Do you think that had something to do with the fact that it was only 17%? There was so much mix-up and confusion?
Yeah, it definitely is a contributing factor. You know, there are students that obviously ask a lot of questions, you know, what does student government do? How can I get involved? I mean, how does it represent me? And all this does is kind of, you know what, make the reputation of student government that much more fuzzy around the edges, because people don't know if they can trust it, if it's a legitimate system. When you have voting violations, you have potential fraud, voting fraud, and systems that don't work, that makes students question, you know, is this system legitimate? So, I don't know.
Yeah, well, they already say it's hard to get people to vote again after that happens. Is that right? Like, is it hard to get the students engaged again, to have them vote?
Yeah, I know in our election we were fortunate that we never had to go through a primary process, but I'm a political science major here graduating in May, and just looking at a normal political process. Anytime there's maybe a special election or there's a recount or a follow-up election, there's always lower turnout, and you really need to get your base of voters, those people that really support you no matter what. Those are the people you want to turn out on these smaller, these primary recounts, all these kinds of elections. So it's going to come down to who's got the more enthusiastic base that's able really to advocate for them on the election day.
Okay. Well, that's all we have for us tonight with Drew, but when we come back, we'll have a little bit of debating with the vice presidents on air. So stay tuned, because your MUSG special will have all that and more.
Live from Marquette, this is your campus news source, MUTV News.
Welcome back to MUTV News. Before we jump into our debates, let's focus on what exactly the challenges may be that await next year's office holders.
Hey man, don't forget to vote, all right? Take a minute, help us win it, all right? Thank you.
Student government at Marquette isn't just games and fun. It's a legitimate organization and serves as an ultimate student voice on campus. Erica Van Boxel is the current MUSG president and talked to me as her term slowly but surely wraps up.
I've loved this position and working with everyone and all the students and that. I'm really going to miss it when I'm done.
This year, most of the work done by MUSG was internal, whether it was working on the student organizational funding or the strategic advancement plan of the university. But there's much more that goes on in the MUSG offices located in the Union right behind me. The said student organizational funding gives MUSG a $500,000 budget to use for student organizations.
I think that there's work that can be done in terms of our student organization funding, and so that can be further defined.
Rosie DeLuca is a sophomore in the College of Business and says MUSG should try and implement the use of a little-known online resource.
As a leader of different organizations on campus, I really would like them to work to get people to use Marquette Involvement Link a little bit more.
Students were invited to vote online on exactly that involvement link. But a problem in the system caused MUSG to push elections back, and results from the primaries didn't come in until Friday afternoon.
Students were supposed to vote for one candidate, and the buttons had the capabilities to vote for more than one. So there was a little bit of a kink in that. And additionally, people who didn't enter their full email address in a Marquette Involvement Link, so they just did at mu.edu, weren't able to vote for a little bit of time because it wouldn't register them, and they were actually eligible to vote.
I asked Rosie what she thought the biggest challenges on campus were.
Something that bugs me right now, the snow.
And as long as it's only that, it seems like MUSG may have to invest into some snowblowers next season.
Well, now let's jump over to Lisa Mihelich, who is with our vice presidential candidates.
Thank you, Max. We have Thomas Schick and Zach Bowman here. They are our vice president candidates for this big MUSG election. So we're going to have, a little debate here. This is actually their first time debating, or as I call it, a little heated discussion here. Well, we're going to start with you, Thomas. What strengths will you bring to this position that sets you apart from someone else?
Well, absolutely. I think the executive vice president of MUSG wears many hats, and I think what that means is bringing a lot of experience to the table. And I think I've been lucky enough to work in MUSG since my first year at Marquette. We're being a hall senator in McCormick, and then this year Schrader senator. Continue as business administration chair, then on budget committee. And I think the particular things that I will try to work on is definitely being someone who can be approachable to the students. I think one of the biggest things that's most important to us and most important to the students from what we've heard is outreach. And I think they want a candidate who can be approachable and, who goes to them, not only listens to find, goes out and, tries to work on their problems and talk with them, and also working internally on different organizational goals.
Okay. Same question.
I think both tickets bring a lot of experience to the game, so you're going to get pretty much the same answer from me. But Sam and I have a little bit of a different perspective just because we've been involved with residence life pretty tightly. Sam and I are both currently RAs in different buildings, but I think that gives us a more direct connection to the students. I also spent a year in the Residence Hall Association, so I haven't been in MUSG my entire time. Sam has, so he has a lot more experience with the issues and leading in that organization, and I bring a little bit of a different perspective, I think.
Okay, so a lot of what your role has to do with the funding for students. So what do you think is most important right now for student funding?
Well, I think the most important thing with student funding is, Zach and I both worked on budget committee, and I think we learned, almost a $500,000 budget seems like a lot of money, and you think that can go such a long way, but there really is, it is tough to allocate money. But I think the most important thing for us as far as budgeting goes and as far as the financial side of MUSG, as executive vice president, will be working on making the SOF process smoother. So one of the big initiatives that Michaela and I are working on is we want to work with the comm department inside of MUSG, make on-screen tutorial videos to improve on the already good brochure that goes to student organizations where they can help apply for funding. Try to make that process easier for them. Make sure that as much money as possible is getting allocated to students. And every student at Marquette pays $60 a year in the student activity fee to MUSG, and we really want to make sure that they see that money back through programs or through the SOF process.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so a lot of your campaign has to do with the finances, so I'm just asking you, what do you think is most important with the student funding right now?
Yeah, well, whenever students do know what MUSG is, I think they most often know what SOF is because they're a part of an organization and they've received money to go to an event or to host something on campus. So I think it's probably the most important part of MUSG as a whole. So part of Sam and I's platform has been sort of similar to Thomas and Michaela's, but just making sure that students know that that money is available, that they can come to us and they can request it and they can host events and have those, and make sure that that money is allocated in the best way possible. In the past, there's been some waste, and in fact, the current reimbursement rate, so when we allocate students' money or organizations' money, only about 75% of them actually come back and reclaim that money. And the problem with that is then 25% of that budget every year goes into our reserve fund, and we think that that's not really fair to students. We currently have about a $200,000 reserve fund, and it's just a bank account that sits there full of students' money, and we don't think that's really fair. We think we should be spending money that students give us fairly and making sure that they can put on the programs that they want to have.
Okay, I think one of the issues that students see right now is the increase in the tuition that is yearly. So how would you communicate this to them? We'll start with you this time, Zach.
Well, actually, just today I found out that I'm going to be part of a committee that's working on a renewed budget breakdown for the university. We saw, I think it was first semester, or maybe right when we got back from Christmas break, they put the dollar breakdown in the front page of the Tribune. And that's a good start, but I think most of us thought when we saw that was, wow, that's not really very detailed. And so we're actually going to retry that and go back in with Chuck Lamb, who's the University Vice President for Finance, and say, this is what we'd like to see. We'd like to see a further breakdown of that, and we really want to know where our money is going and where it's been spent. We recognize as a student government that tuition is something that the university doesn't have entire control over. There's a lot of things that costs keep going up across the board for universities around the country, and it's something that while they're trying to maintain as best as possible, we're going to have to deal with the increases in a way that's fit and make sure that students are being communicated why these increases are happening.
I think you bring up a really important point. I think that's been a really hot topic, gosh, for years as far as tuition goes up, because tuition does go up. As far as our stance on the issue, we understand that tuition does go up, and there are things that, as Zach mentioned, tertiary factors that may be out of their control. But one of the things that we want to do as representatives of MUSG is, while we continue to be transparent, we want the administration to be transparent as well. We want to hold them accountable and, hope that they would be good fiscal stewards as well as we hope to be fiscal stewards. And any changes that do happen, we want to see a better breakdown. We do commend their efforts to have the breakdown in the Marquette Tribune, and we thought that was a good start. But I think there's definitely room for improvement, and make sure that any fluctuations in tuition are communicated well, and we know why tuition may be fluctuating.
All right, well, great answers from both of you. The students have a lot to work with. Thank you so much for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having us.
That's all we have for our vice presidential debate, but coming up after the break, we'll have the presidential candidates with Max Hess. Stay tuned.
Live from Marquette, this is your campus news source, MUTV News.
Welcome back to MUTV News' Student Government Election Special. I'm now joined by Sam Schultz and Mihelich. Thanks for coming in, guys. We're going to do the same thing we just did with the vice presidential candidates. Different questions, though, but I guess the first question is kind of similar. We're going to start with you, and it's going to go down the line. No, similar. What makes you the better candidate?
Sure. So I've been involved in student government since I was a freshman. I'm a junior this year, so I've been a senator for 3 years. And through those 3 years, I've really gotten to work with 3 different presidents and 4 different vice presidents now, and get that experience in really working on the issues through all those things. I've been the committee chair for the academics committee, which is one of the 4 standing committees that Senate has. So through that committee, I've really gotten to know a lot of administrators and staff and faculty, and just get to know them as well as some students and really work on those issues.
Same question to you.
Well, I'm the only candidate that has experience in the MUSG program side. So I think that does bring definitely a different experience. I was on the After Dark Commission, so I was in charge of the late night events for my sophomore year. And then also I have a very wide variety of experiences throughout campus as a whole. And I think that makes me the best candidate because people are used to using me as a resource, coming to me with questions, problems, and they know that I have the skills and ability to at least meet them halfway, hear them out, and then do as much as I can to fix those. And so I feel like that makes me an extremely accessible person, especially put into place in this organization for people to continue to use MUSG as well as myself and Thomas as resources.
So it sounds like there's a lot of competition between you both. Now, one question I do want to ask you is, at Marquette we have our 4 pillars, and as you know, one of them is excellence. How will you guys promote academic excellence for our students? I'll just start with you this time.
I think we will promote academic excellence through a couple of different things. So first is really emphasizing our outreach to students, kind of hearing what they have to say. Where are we lacking as a university? What are the problems? What are the complaints that they really see, and what would they like to be changed? Kind of starting from there and then moving forward, obviously, to address those issues and to improve and push excellence. And then another thing that we definitely like to take a look at is advising. A lot of students do have issues with advising, and that's something that we want to look into, as well as to see what areas of advising specifically are those issues.
Yeah, so through my 2 years as academics committee chair, I've really gotten the chance to talk to a lot of students and kind of start to identify those issues. And definitely there's still more issues that need to be worked out through academic excellence. But I think first, starting off, is advising is a big problem. I mean, in recent MUSG surveys, we keep on getting the results that about 1 in 4 students are upset with their advising. And it's kind of a difficult issue to tackle because advising housed in different colleges. So part of what we'd like to do is kind of universalize that process a little bit to keep that flexibility but still provide standards so advisors are getting evaluated and students are getting the most out of their advising experience. I think that also goes forward through kind of the tools we use in our academic experience. So like improving checkmark is something that we've definitely made a priority and will continue to make a priority, as well as encouraging the use of D2L for professors, especially in posting final grades, because a lot of times we don't get to learn about the final exams that we take because they don't post them to D2L. As well as finally working with the new dean, the College of Arts and Sciences. We have a new dean coming in next year. Since so many of the core courses stem out of the College of Arts and Sciences, it's really an issue that affects academic excellence throughout the university.
Really good answers, guys. I have one more question for you guys. We're going to limit the answers response because we got limited time. But what do you think? And this I can phrase this so that it's easy for you. Give me one problem that you see as the biggest problem that you guys are going to tackle next year. I'll start with you.
I think, oh gosh, that's hard. Just one. I guess I would have to say the SOF funding process and really making that more easily accessible to students. We would never want anyone to not get funding purely because they didn't know how to use it or they didn't know about the process, they didn't know about the 7 chances that they have to get funding. So really working with student organizations and improving that experience.
Same for you?
I think really improving our outreach and through connecting students not only to MUSG, but using MUSG to connect students together. I think a lot of times students are really passionate about issues but don't know how to approach them, and we can kind of connect groups together, cultural, academic groups, all sorts of ones, so they can really focus on the issues that they care about, so we're not dictating as much and working with students.
Well, really sounds like you guys have a great idea of what you want to do. You're extremely motivated. It's going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for coming in tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have for our presidential debate. We'll be right back after the break. Well, it sounds like we've got a lot to discuss, a lot to look at until people can really make their final decisions. Because got to be honest, those are some 2 very competitive candidates.
There are, and there's a lot of content. They have a lot going for themselves, whether it's the problems they're going to fix or what makes a good leader. They really had the answers for us. So we really thank them for coming in and just giving their opinions to us.
Well, it'll be really interesting to see what happens tomorrow. But thank you so much for tuning in to our MUSG election special. And make sure to put out those votes.